we were talking together, and I was jokingly about finding the new kid on the block. First, you certainly are not, because you have been working in this industry in your roles and other roles as well for many years. But your companies, at different points, some of them could have been the new kid on the block. I'll start with Ayshe. I think we used to refer to 10DLC as a new thing. By now, you're more mature. GCH, for people that don't know, I mean, do you know GCH? Probably. Do you know GCH? I think.
Oh, yay, new people to introduce to GCH Technologies.
Yes, you take over those. Well, with GCH, recently you took over the running of a shortcode registry, which was previously run by iConnective, if I'm not mistaken.
You are correct.
And Aegis Mobile has been around for a while, always doing vetting, and I would say establishing itself even more so. Potentially, in the shortcode, we had WMC Global having a bigger role, which I think now is almost passed to you in terms of importance. So I think we have seen lots of changes in this market. And it's great to have you here, but Ariel, GCH, let's talk about the recent news, taking control of the shortcode platform. Yeah. How's it going?
I would say I'd ask you, but it sounds like most of you haven't heard of GCH Technologies, or maybe you're using us and didn't even realize it. So GCH took over the shortcode registry on January 1st of this year, and so far it's been very smooth sailing. Those that are in the registry have had really positive feedback. We've loved hearing some of the improvements that we could continue to make, and have been doing so already based on your feedback. The primary change for us is we've modernized the registry and made it very modular and flexible and agile so that it can continue to evolve as messaging continues to evolve. We've included new security measures like multi-factor authentication, and are looking to make workflows for you to make the process more efficient.
So potentially the fact that they don't know you, it's a sign of a smooth introduction.
We didn't break anything.
Okay, well done. Now let's talk about TCR, the 10DLC registry, Ayshe. And well, actually, I was going to refer not the new kid on the block realistically anymore. Are you a mature platform now?
Well, I was going to say we are no longer the new kid, but I definitely know what it means to be the new kid on the block. Yes, I think, and we should ask to our partners, customers, stakeholders, but I would say we are now a mature product. We launched in 2021, and a lot of the people that are here in this room were there at the very beginning, either as our partners or as our customers. Ever since, of course, we have been evolving, the messaging industry has been evolving, but we have a mandate by the US carriers, right? So we are the official 10DLC registry for the US carriers. We are now, I would say, broadly adopted as the industry has grown. We have integrated with more than 1,000 CSPs. We are integrated with all the DCAs from the very beginning. We are integrated with other industry stakeholders like the gateways, spam filters, net number. So we are integrated with everyone and anyone that is part of the messaging ecosystem, A2P messaging ecosystem. And there is adoption by CSPs and brands. So there's a mandate, there's adoption, there's integration. So I would say, yes, we are now a mature platform.
And Melissa?
Please let me know if you disagree.
Yeah, any
after.
Disagreement? Well, I'm not sure I would want to fight with Ayshe. I know some of the stories. She's got an interesting background on traveling as well. But talking about Melissa and the interesting background you have been at Aegis Mobile for a while. Aegis is, I don't want to say it's changed, but you are not a registry. You're working with all of this registry.
Yes.
And you're also the vetting agency for RCS. So you've got plenty on your plate.
Yes, yeah. So we've been working with TCR, when 10DLC started since 2021, but we have been in the vetting space with telecom for over 15 years. So when we integrated and worked with TCR, we needed to have reliability of sourcing. So we have dozens and dozens of data sources that we are cross-correlating, but it also needed to be scalable to be able to sustain such a registry. And that scalability has allowed us to do over 5 million transactions of vetting brands over the last, 5 years? And we are global. We had to come out globally because it's not just U.S. companies, but we have brands that have come through over 170 countries. So
in the US. So in
yes,
the US,
for
you've got-
U.S. messaging, but that have brands that originate out of other countries. So we had to be global. We had to be scalable. And as we are now working with another registry for short codes, each of those channels have their uniqueness and the vetting and verification that needs to be performed in those. And we're doing that on behalf of the carriers, and we do automation where we can. And if we need to have expert investigators, we're doing that, and we're working alongside our registry partners, and then even into RCS directly with some of our other partners.
In the title, we talk about the scalability because I'm obviously going to be very respectful as more of registries are good. But they're sometimes meant to provide traceability and a bit of frictions, a bit of stop and think what you do, what you put, and so on. Now, try and sell that value of what you're doing to this crowd here. What's the value of having? And I'll start with Ayshe. What is the value that registries are bringing in this market? Is anybody there not convinced that they're good enough?
Yeah. So I think it is fair to say that registries maybe created some disruption, but disruption is not bad. Disruption could be a very, very positive thing. The value, I think, comes in, I'm talking about the 10DLC registry, but I think it applies to the concept altogether. We provide visibility and traceback before everything else, right? So 10DLC ecosystem, in general, messaging ecosystem is composed of a lot of actors, brands, a lot of CSPs, a lot of middle players in the middle. And through the registration and verification process, we provide visibility to the entire workflow, to the entire ecosystem for our main stakeholders, the MNOs and the DCAs, who are a key participant of the compliance parts, right? So we, through the traceback and then through the actionable items that we provide, we allow the industry to be able to act upon if and when needed.
So you're almost an onboarding, the reference point of source of information.
Yes, onboarding and then information collection, processing, and distribution hub. That is how I would describe the 10DS registry.
Ariel, it should be similar for a short code?
It's similar. It's similar. I want to build actually on top of what Ayshe said, right? The channel is only as good as it's trusted and as long as folks are opening those messages, right? And so you have to be able to create a system of accountability and trust in order to be able to maintain that channel. And that's what a registry is there to help do. I mean, with the short code registry, the CTIA built that registry with compliance by design. That's where the vetting and monitoring program came from. It's part of why messaging has such a solid foundation in terms of being that trusted channel and why it has such a high open rate and why it isn't like email and it's different. And I think a registry and the vetting companies that enter the ecosystem, we have a responsibility to maintain the trust in that channel so that it can continue to grow and so that we can continue to build on it.
And so, Melissa, why should people verify their customers?
Well, we've seen brand impersonation. It's building that trust. And if you're not looking for those and, identifying when that impersonation is happening, then you're opening that messaging open for fraud, the capability for fraud to occur. And so the process, regardless of what channel it is, the requirements are going to be different in those channels. But the ultimate goal is verify, vet, identify where there are issues, and have that right amount of friction that is needed so that the trust remains in the ecosystem.
Well, you've been agreeing with each other a bit too much. Let's put you in some troubles, because otherwise it's no fun. Let's talk about RCS, not troubles by itself, but both of your registries are not covering RCS, they're only SMS. Actually, Melissa, Aegis Mobile does cover all of them. I do know, I guess, operators decide, but your views as you go. Just try to create some issues with you and others. So, starting with you, Ariel.
Sure.
What do you think?
I also don't think there's going to be an issue here per se.
Damn it.
So,
I did try.
Sorry, Dario. I mean, speaking from GCH and the shortcode registry perspective, we built the platform to be flexible. There's lots of APIs to be able to support the registration process based on the requirements of the MNOs. And I know that the CTIA is in the process of having conversations with the wireless providers as to what it is that they're looking for out of the RCS ecosystem, registry or otherwise. And GCH is here to help support whatever it is that we're doing to be able to protect that channel going forward.
And from 10DLC, Ayshe?
Much the same, really. We are an onboarding tool. We are here to help CSPs register their A2P campaigns. We are not an RCS registry, but we are an onboarding tool, and we are just here to help. We are integrated with the verification authorities today that are part of the RCS ecosystem, Aegis. We are able to extend our capabilities, but again, we are just here to help if and when needed.
Well, let's talk about the next chapters. What other things are coming? We'll start with Melissa. I mean, scalability has been a mantra for you, given that you've now covered all corners in US. But what else do you think that might be needed in vetting and other things? What's your next development?
Well, so vetting is that step, but having the full compliance view. So working with registries and understanding that in-market activity, for example, with short codes, we are doing in-market monitoring. So we're able to identify when something is not performing as it should be in the market, and being able to funnel that through into the registries and having that feedback loop. That prevents bad actors in the future. And whether it's in short codes or they go into a different channel, having that communication channel open across the different industries is just important.
Who would like to take next? Well, your next development, Ayshe?
I would say the next for the ecosystem could be universal vetting when it comes to brands, right? Because when we are talking about the native A2P messaging apps, 10DLC, shortcode, toll-free, these all have similar brands that are engaging when it comes to reaching to their consumers. And the requirements in terms of compliance and messaging best practices are defined by CTIA, and we all follow, and we all basically provide tools to implement those requirements following the carrier mandates. Therefore, the brands should be able to have a universal verification and vetting that can be applicable through collaboration for different registries. That's what I would say could be one of our next targets.
And you, Ariel? GCH running the business as usual.
Yeah,
but you're ready?
No, I love exactly what these ladies are talking about, and I think it's about how do we make it as efficient for a brand to get their message out to their customer using the channel that's going to be best suited for that particular message. It's actually, we've seen it happen with 10-digit, right? Everyone, when I left the ecosystem for a tiny bit, when 10DLC was being spun up, and everyone was saying 10-digit is going to be the death of short codes. And the reality is that everything is just grown. Exactly right, because there's a time where you're going to want to use a short code. There's a time where you're going to want to use 10-digit or toll-free, or in the future, RCS. And so it's what can our collective companies do to be able to make it as easy for the good actors to be able to get their message out there, while also creating enough friction to keep the bad guys out? And where are there opportunities for us to work collectively to make sure that the end consumer is ultimately protected?
I mentioned to you that we were asked to join the United Nations as MEF, and love to all the discussions happen there. But I would say the 3 days of the United Nations was all about 2 words: data sharing. They became a massive requirement. There's now going to be in some of their documentations. So what kind of data sharing are you doing right now between you and other parts of the ecosystem? How much can we guide and improve understanding of fraud, understanding of the market itself? Who wants to go first? Melissa.
Well, I was going to say, from the vetting perspective, if, when we identify or those bad actors are identified and that is provided to a vetting authority such as Aegis Mobile, then you're able to make sure no matter what channel they come through, they're identified. And that way it's going into that final result of their vetting and verification if they've been found to be doing bad practices. And so that type of information coming from our carrier partners or otherwise is going to be important into going into that verification process to have the full cycle feedback loop.
Ayshe, do you share data with a shortcode of a toll-free?
Not as of today, but we share a lot of data with other stakeholders in the ecosystem. Data sharing is actually at the epicenter of what we are doing, because I always describe TCR as a data collection, processing, and distribution tool, right? So we are an onboarding tool. However, data sharing agreements and data protection agreements are fundamental for us. We have one or both with all of the partners, all of the stakeholders that we are engaging with, and we are sharing data on a need basis, which is helping the ecosystem with fraud mitigation, spam mitigation, and troubleshooting. We also have everything webhook and event-based, so data sharing is automated in TCR upstream and downstream.
Ariel.
Yeah, from the shortcode perspective, we're obviously integrated with Aegis Mobile, and there's a very close relationship between our two organizations. And then from the CTIA perspective, what's happening inside of the registry is shared out with all of the wireless providers. And then, like Ayshe is saying, it's then within each of the partners' ecosystems that they're seeing their own data. What I can say is that the new registry, as it's been built, is completely compatible with APIs now, so that we can begin tighter integrations with those partners, starting with our wireless providers.
Thank you for that. It is time, if you have a question or multiple questions for the registries here and the vetting company, what would you like to ask? Do you raise your hands, any of you? You've done such a great job. Or I think they are so afraid of three formidable women, they don't want to.
I was going to say, we don't bite much.
Well, look at them. Look how terrified they are. I don't know. That tells you something. Oh, well, it had to be a woman to take a formidable woman to three formidable women. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. I was just on the, wow, this is really loud. I was just on the panel, Ayshe Miller from Aduna. Full disclosure, we also work with Aegis on this, but I'm going to ask a question that I've heard other people asking me today, and they may be afraid to bring it up here. So hopefully I'm asking this on behalf of other folks. But we've talked a lot about introducing the right amount of friction to prevent fraud in this ecosystem. But then there's a lot of brands that don't want to do that. They have to get vet more than once for different channels. So can you talk about, I think earlier you touched a little bit on maintaining the trust in this ecosystem so that, we can continue to serve customers, we can continue to essentially send these messages that are really important and consumers can trust who it's coming from. So can you talk a little bit more about why vetting is important and some ideas, if you have any, on how we can reduce the friction maybe to the right level based on if you're seeing any trends in the data on are we still attacking the right places where fraud is occurring, or are we introducing too much friction now where a place maybe fraud is a little bit less? And any ideas on how we can improve it?
Guess that's directed to,
Melissa
I'll take
goes.
that one. So, from a cross-channel perspective, the brand getting vetted for every single channel maybe is not necessarily going to have the best experience. But if you have the highest level of vet, whatever that channel may be, whether it's RCS, network APIs, and that has happened, then being able to support their ability to get into those other channels, having already done that one vet. Because, again, you have to do the too much verification, not enough verification, but if you get to that highest level vet, and then being able to take that, again, with the agreement of our partners, into other channels, such as 10DLC or otherwise.
Eddie, somebody's giving a microphone to Eddie. Here we go. But they kept on mute.
So a brand needs to be vetted for network APIs. A brand needs to be vetted more so than anything on SMS, because a carrier for the first time is releasing their CPNI data outside their four walls. So the level of liability for the mobile network operator, just T-Mobile, the level of liability for the mobile network operator is astronomically high. So not only does the brand need to be vetted, but the use case needs to be vetted, because there is no way, at least on network authentication, I won't talk to QOD and I won't talk to QoS, but at least on network authentication, the brand and the use case need to be completely vetted. There is no way a marketplace will ever work in that model because of the CPNI data being released outside the four walls. And I've talked to every single one of your CEOs trying to figure out how we can put that type of vetting before they even get to the use case approvals.
So I guess we're running a bit late, but then, Ayshe, you verify the campaign. You verify.
We are not a
you
vetting
registry,
authority.
sorry. You register, yeah. You register the authority, yeah, the use cases.
I really like this analogy, right? And to your point, Eddie, there are different types of depth of a verification and a vet and the risk tolerances that go along with each of those channels. You can kind of think of it like a driver's license, and then you get a certification to drive a truck, and you get a certification to be able to drive a motorcycle, and you get a certification to be able to drive a moving van, right? Each of those different vehicles represents a different level of risk to the folks on the road. And even though you have that single driver's license, you still have to go through additional steps in order to prove that you are worthy of the risk for that particular vehicle. And messaging channels are very similar. There are places of overlap where there are verifications, are you who you say you are? And then there are additional layers that need to happen depending on the level of access that that particular brand is going to have to a carrier's network and to those carrier subscribers. And I think that is a place where the ecosystem can come together in order to be able to understand where those guardrails are.
And if I may.
Well, just to consumer, Lisa.
Yeah, I'm going to. But like beyond the brand vet, there are the use cases for network APIs or the applications. In RCS, it's the logo and the banner and that type of verification. So it is the brand, but each of those channels has those additional components that are going to need to be verified and make sure that they're operating as they should be. And again, market monitoring after the fact. They get in, you need to maintain and be able to validate what they're doing once they are in that market and being able to take down bad actors if they do.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for being here and sharing. You obviously are here all day. Time to ask you a question to the registries. But could you help me to say thank you to Ariel, Reid, Ayshe, Melissa and Atkinstall. Thank you very much. Thanks all of you.